Hello and welcome to another episode of My Retro Life. My name's Alan. Today, not so much something I've dug out, more something I dug up. So this old Corgi Mustang was found in my veggie patch a few years ago when I was digging it up. And surprisingly, it actually didn't get too much damage even though I put a fork right the way through it. As you can see, it is in a pretty poor state. But I thought this was a good thing for me to test my airbrushing skills on, because I haven't really used an airbrush for 20 odd years now. So I wanted something to kind of have a play with, but if I screwed it up, it didn't really matter. So I thought, why not? Let's give this a go. So without further ado, let's actually see what we've got to work with here. As you can see, it's already in pieces because a lot of it's rotted away. It's probably in the ground for maybe 20 or even 30 years. The wheels are completely gone apart from this one, which is rusty as you can see. The base, well, you can see the hole where I put the fork through it, and you can see what's left of the rusty remains of the axles. The interior is actually not too bad a condition. Bit dirty, needs a clean, but it's okay. And the glass itself, again, is in pretty good condition, even though one of the headlights is missing, probably where I put the fork through it. I think I was lucky because the base was loose and I actually managed to avoid a lot of damage when I actually dug it up. But hopefully we can do something with this. So this is what we got to start with. Let's see what we can do. So first of all, we've got to give it a really good clean because it is absolutely filthy. Hopefully this should make things a little bit easier to see where we are with it. And looking at the colour of that water, this was long overdue. There's 30 years worth of muck and grime on here, so we need to do a good job with this cleanup. There we are, things are looking better already. The glass, amazingly, is not that scratched. The interior is looking much cleaner now. The base is looking better. And the body itself, well, you can see it's now white, but still with a lot of damage. And look at the colour of that water. Yuck. Let's get the paint off the Mustang. So I'm just using some normal paint strip here just to try and remove the paint and get it back to bare metal. Just using a very soft brush to apply the paint stripper very carefully and making sure it gets to all the nooks and crannies. And already you can see the paint starting to come off. But I think we're going to need a little bit more here because it's being particularly stubborn. So whilst that's getting rid of the paint, let's try and do something with this glass. I think we're going to have to drop it into some of this Pledge Revive It to put a much nicer clean shine on it. This stuff's absolutely fantastic. If you've got any scratched plastic, it works wonders. All you need to do is give it a quick dip into the solution, swiggle it about a bit, take it out, let all the drops fall off, and then just place it onto a piece of tissue paper just to drain off and dry, and hey presto, it looks almost brand new. This stuff is amazing. So we'll put it on this piece of tissue paper, and then we'll look at the base and the interior to see what we can do with those to spruce them up a bit. So with the base, I think I really need to do something to clean it up, so a quick spray with some matte black paint should make it look a lot better. So I'm just being very careful, quick spray here in the spray booth, and that should dry really quickly and look a lot better. There we go, that looks a lot better than it did before. Same with the base. Let's just see if we can just make it a little bit more presentable. Now I'm making sure I'm hitting all the different angles to get the paint into all the corners and all of the crevices and the holes to ensure we get complete coverage. Although I do realise later that having the having the clamps where they are, I actually leave a big red streak on the bottom, which we'll see later. I didn't realise that when I was doing this. But there we go, that's looking really nice now. And the paint strip is definitely starting to work, although it's being really stubborn, this paint. It just does not want to come off. This is about 20 minutes in the paint stripper, and it's kind of coming off, but it's just not working that well at all. So I think we're going to have to move on to more extreme measures. So first of all, we need to rinse this to get the paint stripper off. So we're just going to drop it into some soapy water and just clean it all up. It's kind of coming off, but it's really being stubborn. It doesn't help if I keep dropping it as well. So I think more extreme measures are needed. So this is just some wild wool to see if we can try and get some more of the paint off. And this is definitely helping. It's starting to come off a bit better now, but it's still kind of hanging on a bit. So I think we need to move on to something even more extreme. Okay, this is just a wire well of my Dremel, and actually this works really well. It's actually not as aggressive as you might think. If you put this on your skin, it's not going to hurt you, but it's really good for getting that stubborn paint off and getting into all of the places where the paint stripper just would not remove the paint from. So all I'm going to do is go all over the car with this, and hopefully it will look pretty good. So considering this has been on the ground for 30 odd years, I think this is pretty good condition. There is some pits and holes in it, but I'm not going to fill those in. I think it kind of adds a bit of character to it. And also you can see a little bit of damage there. That's where the fork went through the car when I dug it up. I didn't even notice that was on there until the paint was removed. So now we've got this cleaned up, we're going to put a bit of Tamiya's fine surface primer on there just to seal the metal and make it a bit easier for the final colour to go on there when I've chosen it. So again, just being really careful to make sure that I get into all the nooks and crannies and get complete coverage with the primer. The nice thing about this is that it takes very short amount of time to dry, so this will dry off in about 10-15 minutes and it's ready for us to put some paint on. And there you go. And you can see there's quite a lot of detail in this casting. So we've chosen the colour and I've decided to go with silver. No idea why, I just thought it looked really good in silver. So I've loaded up the airbrush and let's give it a go. My first airbrushing in about 20 odd years. So I'm being very careful just to give a very fine first coat, more because I'm scared, I don't really know what I'm doing. But it seems to have gone quite well. And there you go, my first coat of paint in a long time. So here we go, here's all the pieces. I put a spare set of wheels into this base and just arrowdited them in because they won't hold in otherwise. The interior, it's got a kind of a satiny sheen which looks quite nice with this silver paint. The windscreen, as you can see, if it wasn't for that broken headlight, this would look absolutely brand new. I'm so impressed how well this has come up. And here's the car itself. It's had about 3 coats of paint. It's also had a coat of clear coat on top, and I've also put a little bit of detailing on the lights and around the fuel tank and the door shuts, just to make it a little bit more realistic, I guess. But yeah, I'm really happy how that's come out. Yes, it's got damage on it, but I don't care. I think it looks quite cool. So let's remind ourselves what we started with. An unloved, old, buried car that was pretty much ready to be thrown away. I'm really pleased with how this has turned out. Okay, it's not perfect, it's got the damage on there, we know that. But hey, considering what we started with, I think it looks pretty good. And it proves to me that I can still use an airbrush to some degree. So I'm looking forward to playing around with that a lot more in some future projects. Thank you so much for watching, and please join me again for another episode soon.